The champagne had stopped tasting like celebration 3 glasses ago. Now it burned, sharp and bitter, sliding down Amina Okoye's throat like liquid regret. She stood at the edge of the Monarch Bar's main floor, her emerald silk dress clinging to curves she'd chosen specifically because Andre used to trace them with reverent hands. The bar glittered around her. Gold fixtures, crystal chandeliers dripping light like expensive tears, marble floors so polished they reflected the faces of people who belonged here. Amina didn't belong here. Not anymore. Not since Andre had decided she wasn't enough. She watched him across the room, his hand sliding possessively down another woman's spine, fingers splaying across the small of her back exactly the way he used to touch her. The woman laughed, high, bright, effortless, and Andre leaned in, whispering something that made her throw her head back in delight. 3 weeks! It had been 3 weeks since he'd sat in her tiny apartment, tears in his eyes, begging her to give him time to grow. 3 weeks since he'd said he needed space to figure himself out. 3 weeks since she'd stupidly, desperately believed that maybe, just maybe, he'd meant it. The champagne flute trembled in Amina's hand. Andre looked up. Their eyes met across the crowded bar, and he smirked. Actually smirked, like he'd been waiting for her to show up. Like this whole thing, the new woman, the public display, the calculated cruelty of choosing this bar, the one where they'd had their first date, had been orchestrated just to watch Amina break. Heat flooded her cheeks. Not embarrassment. Rage. Pure crystalline fury that started in her chest and spread like wildfire through every nerve ending. She was done being humiliated. Done being the woman who cried alone while her ex moved on without a backward glance. Done being small. Amina turned sharply, her heels clicking against marble, and that's when she saw him. The man sat alone in a curved leather booth along the far wall, separated from the crowd by an invisible barrier of space that no one dared cross. He wore black, expensive black, the kind that whispered money and screamed danger. His suit jacket was open, revealing glimpses of dark ink that crawled up his neck and disappeared beneath his collar. Sharp jawline. Midnight black hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from stone. And his eyes. God, his eyes. Cold, calculating, ancient. Eyes that had seen things Amina couldn't begin to imagine. 3 men stood behind him, silent, watchful, hands clasped in front of them like soldiers awaiting orders. No one approached the booth. Even drunk patrons seemed to instinctively veer away, as if proximity alone might be fatal. Amina's champagne-soaked brain registered one clear thought. Dangerous. And then a second thought, reckless and desperate. Perfect. She didn't think. Thinking had gotten her nowhere but heartbroken and humiliated. She moved, crossing the bar with purpose, her dress swishing around her thighs like green fire. The man's gaze tracked her approach. Not surprised, not welcoming, just aware, like a predator watching prey wander into striking distance. Amina reached the booth, bent down, put her lips close to his ear, so close she could smell him. Sandalwood, smoke, and something darker she couldn't name, and whispered the 6 most reckless words of her entire life. Can you touch me more? Please. Silence. The man didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't breathe. For one horrible, crystallizing second, Amina realized she'd made a catastrophic mistake. This wasn't some random bar patron. This was someone else, someone the entire room was carefully, deliberately ignoring. She started to pull back. His hand caught her waist, not gentle, not rough, just inevitable, like gravity. His palm spread across her hip, fingers pressing into silk with slow, deliberate authority. Heat radiated from his touch, burning through fabric, searing into skin. He pulled her closer, not dragged but guided, until she half stood, half leaned against him, his body solid and unyielding as stone beneath her. "Who?" His voice was silk over gravel, low enough that only she could hear. Accented, Korean, maybe, each word precisely formed, deliberately controlled. Amina's heart slammed against her ribs. "My ex. Blue shirt. Blonde woman." The man's gaze shifted, a single economical movement that somehow conveyed absolute command. He found Andre in seconds, analyzed, dismissed. "And you want him to see you with me?" Not a question. "Yes." Amina's voice came out breathless. "Please, just for a minute. I'll pay you. I don't know how much—" "I don't need your money." His hand tightened on her waist, pulled her down, into his lap. Amina gasped. Shock, yes, but also something else. Something that shot through her like electricity when her thighs settled over his, when his other hand came up to cradle the back of her neck, fingers threading through her hair with possessive certainty. "Look at me." An order, not a request. She obeyed. Up close, he was devastating. All sharp angles and controlled violence, tattoos curling up his throat like smoke. And those eyes, God, those eyes, pinning her in place with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. "What's your name?" he asked. "Amina." "Amina." He said it slowly, tasting each syllable like wine. "I'm Jihoon." Behind him, one of the silent men shifted, just slightly, and Amina caught the edge of something that might have been alarm flashing across his face before he schooled it back to neutrality. "Is he watching?" Jihoon asked, his thumb tracing slow circles at the base of her skull. Amina's peripheral vision caught Andre frozen mid-sentence, staring, the blonde woman beside him forgotten. "Yes." "Good." Jihoon's hand slid up, cupping her jaw, tilting her face with excruciating gentleness that somehow felt more dangerous than force ever could. "Then let's make sure he remembers this." He didn't kiss her. Not yet. He let the anticipation build. A breath apart, his exhale warming her lips, his eyes holding hers with an intensity that made the crowded bar disappear. Made everything disappear except the weight of his hands on her body and the thundering of her heart, and the single, terrifying question forming in the back of her mind. Who the hell did I just touch? The kiss happened in slow motion. Jihoon's mouth captured hers with a control that felt choreographed, measured, deliberate, and utterly devastating. His lips were soft against hers, but the hand at her nape tightened, holding her exactly where he wanted her, not forcing, commanding. There was a difference. Amina's brain short-circuited. She'd expected performance, a quick press of lips, maybe, something for Andre to see and rage over. She'd expected acting. This wasn't acting. This was a claiming. Jihoon kissed her like he had all the time in the world and absolutely no intention of letting her go. His other hand spread across her lower back, pressing her closer. And when she gasped, shocked, overwhelmed, burning, he took advantage, deepening the kiss with a skill that made her entire body flush hot. Behind them, someone dropped a glass. The sound shattered through the bar like a gunshot. Jihoon pulled back slowly, his eyes never leaving hers, and Amina saw something flicker in those obsidian depths. Amusement, maybe, or satisfaction. His thumb brushed across her swollen bottom lip. "He's coming over," Jihoon murmured. "Your ex." Amina blinked, dazed. "What? Do you want me to handle him?" The way he said handle, casual, almost bored, sent ice down her spine. "Handle him how?" Jihoon tilted his head slightly, and for the first time, something resembling a smile ghosted across his mouth. Not warm, not friendly, predatory. "However you prefer." Before Amina could answer, Andre's voice cut through the space between them like a blade. "Amina, what the hell are you doing?" She turned, still in Jihoon's lap, still held by hands that hadn't loosened their grip, and met Andre's fury with a calm she didn't feel. He stood 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the vein throbbing in his temple, the red flush creeping up his neck. The blonde woman hovered behind him, confusion replacing her earlier smugness. "I'm having a drink," Amina said evenly. "What does it look like?" "It looks like you're making a fool of yourself." Andre's gaze raked over her, then snapped to Jihoon with barely concealed hostility. "And who the hell is this?" Jihoon didn't respond. He simply looked at Andre, a flat, empty stare that somehow communicated volumes. The temperature around the booth seemed to drop 10 degrees. Behind Jihoon, the 3 men shifted position, subtle movements that placed them closer, more alert. Andre faltered, just for a second, but Amina saw it. Fear, quick and instinctive, before masculine pride shoved it back down. "This is Jihoon," Amina said, her voice stronger now. She felt Jihoon's hand slide up her spine, a silent encouragement. "We're getting to know each other." "Right." Andre's laugh was ugly. "You expect me to believe you just randomly hooked up with some guy 20 minutes after walking in here? Come on, Amina. This is pathetic. You're better than this desperate. Choose your next words carefully." Jihoon's voice cut through Andre's tirade like a knife through silk. Quiet. Lethal. Very carefully. Andre's mouth clicked shut. The entire bar had gone quiet. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses stopped clinking. Even the bartender had frozen, watching the scene unfold with the kind of horrified fascination usually reserved for car crashes. One of Jihoon's men, the tallest one, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, leaned forward and whispered something in rapid Korean. Jihoon responded without breaking eye contact with Andre, his tone flat and final. The scarred man straightened, then turned to Andre with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sir, I think it would be wise if you returned to your date. Now." It wasn't a suggestion. Andre looked between them, Jihoon's impassive face, the 3 imposing men, Amina still curled in Jihoon's lap, and something in him crumbled. Amina watched it happen in real time, the moment her ex realized he was outmatched in every possible way. "This isn't over," Andre muttered, but he was already backing away. "Yes," Jihoon said softly. "It is." Andre left. The blonde woman scurried after him, shooting one last confused glance over her shoulder before disappearing into the crowd. Slowly, noise returned to the bar, tentative at first, then building back to its previous volume as patrons realized the show was over. Amina exhaled a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Thank you," she whispered. Thank you." Jihoon's expression didn't change. "You're still sitting on my lap." Heat flooded her cheeks. "Oh God, I'm sorry, I didn't—" She started to scramble off, but his hands tightened, keeping her in place. "I didn't say move." Amina froze. Jihoon studied her face like he was memorizing it. The curve of her cheekbones, the fullness of her mouth, the way her dark eyes widened with a mixture of fear and something else she refused to name. His thumb traced her jawline with unexpected gentleness. "Tell me about him," Jihoon said. "Your ex, why does he matter?" "He doesn't," Amina said quickly. Too quickly. "Liar." She flinched. "We were together 2 years. He said he needed space. 3 weeks later, he's here with her, acting like I never existed. Like I was nothing." "You're not nothing." The certainty in his voice startled her. "You don't know me." "I know you walked across this bar, sat in my lap, and kissed me to prove a point." Jihoon's mouth curved slightly. "That takes courage, or stupidity. I haven't decided which." "Probably stupidity," Amina admitted. "Probably." His hand slid back to her waist. "Tell me something, Amina. Do you know who I am?" Her stomach dropped. "Should I?" One of the men behind Jihoon made a choked sound, quickly suppressed. Jihoon's eyes glittered with something that might have been amusement. "No," he said finally. "I suppose you shouldn't." He shifted, and Amina suddenly became aware of how solid he was beneath her, how warm, how dangerous. "But you're about to find out." He lifted her off his lap with effortless strength, setting her on her feet beside the booth. Her legs wobbled slightly, champagne and adrenaline making her unsteady, and Jihoon steadied her with a hand on her elbow. "Go home, Amina," he said, his voice losing some of its sharp edge. "Forget this happened. Forget you met me." She should have listened, should have nodded, walked away, counted her blessings that she'd escaped whatever this was without consequence. Instead, she heard herself ask, "What if I don't want to forget?" Jihoon went very still. Behind him, the three men exchanged glances, alarmed, uncertain. The scarred one opened his mouth like he might intervene, but Jihoon raised one finger, a tiny gesture that silenced him instantly. "You don't know what you're asking," Jihoon said quietly. "Then tell me." Amina lifted her chin, meeting his gaze with a boldness borrowed from champagne and heartbreak. "Who are you?" Jihoon studied her for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket, pulled out a business card, black, embossed with silver Korean characters, and pressed it into her palm as fingers lingered over hers. "Go home," he repeated, "and decide if you're brave enough to find out." Then he released her and sat back, dismissing her as completely as if she'd never existed. Amina's fingers closed around the card. She should have thrown it away, should have walked out of the Monarch Bar and never looked back. But as she turned toward the exit, she felt Jihoon's gaze burning into her spine, and knew, with absolute certainty, that everything had just changed. What she didn't know was that the card in her hand marked her as untouchable, that every criminal syndicate from Seoul to São Paulo would recognize those silver characters, that by touching Jihoon Kang in public, she'd accidentally declared herself under his protection. And in Jihoon's world, protection was just another word for possession. Amina made it halfway home before she looked at the card. Her apartment in Brooklyn was 45 minutes from Le Monarch by subway, and she'd spent the first 20 trying to convince herself to throw the black rectangle into the nearest trash can. It was just a card, just a stranger she'd never see again, just a moment of champagne-fueled insanity that would make a good story someday. Except her lips still tingled from his kiss, and her waist still felt the phantom pressure of his hands. And when she finally pulled the card from her clutch under the fluorescent subway lights, her breath caught. The silver Korean characters gleamed like mercury. Below them, embossed in English, Jihoon Kang. Acquisitions. No company name, no address, just a phone number. Acquisitions. What the hell did that mean? Amina turned the card over. The back was blank except for 3 words handwritten in sharp, precise strokes. "When you're ready." Her thumb traced the letters. She should throw it away. She tucked it into her wallet instead. The knocking started at 2:47 a.m. Amina bolted upright in bed, heart hammering, the remnants of a dream. Jihoon's obsidian eyes, his hands on her skin, evaporating like smoke. The knocking came again, urgent and insistent, and she grabbed her phone, checking the peephole camera app. Her best friend Zara stood in the hallway, still in her scrubs from the night shift at Brooklyn Methodist, her box braids pulled back in a messy bun. Amina yanked open the door. "Z, what?" "Get inside." Zara pushed past her, spinning around with wild eyes. "Tell me you didn't do what I think you did." Ice flooded Amina's veins. "What are you talking about?" "Le Monarch. Tonight." Zara's voice shook. "Please tell me you weren't at Le Monarch tonight." How did you know that?" "Because it's all over the goddamn news, Amina." Zara shoved her phone into Amina's hands. The screen showed a grainy photo, clearly taken from someone's cell phone camera across the bar. Amina recognized herself instantly. Emerald dress, sitting in Jihoon's lap, his hand cradling her face, their mouths a breath apart. But it was the headline that made her stomach drop. Korean syndicate leader Ji-hoon Kang spotted with mystery woman at Manhattan hotspot. The article continued. Ji-hoon Kang, notorious head of the Kang organization, one of Korea's most feared criminal syndicates with operations spanning 3 continents, was photographed at Monarch Bar with an unidentified woman. Sources say the public display is unprecedented for the notoriously private crime lord, who has never been seen with a romantic interest. The woman's identity remains unknown, but witnesses report Kang appeared protective and possessive, behaviors that have sparked speculation about. Amina stopped reading. The phone slipped from her numb fingers. "Criminal syndicate," she whispered. He's a criminal?" "Not just any criminal." Zara grabbed her shoulders. "Amina, Ji-hoon Kang is one of the most dangerous men in the world. Money laundering, arms dealing, God knows what else. The FBI has been trying to pin something on him for years, but he's untouchable. And you—" Her voice cracked. "You kissed him, in public, in front of witnesses." The room tilted. Amina sank onto her couch, images from the night replaying with horrifying new context. The way everyone had avoided Ji-hoon's booth, the silent men behind him. That flat, lethal stare when Andre had approached, the scarred man's too polite threat. Choose your next words carefully. Oh God. "I didn't know," Amina breathed. "I swear, Z, I had no idea. Andre was there with that woman, and I saw Ji-hoon, and I thought—" "You thought you'd use a Mafia boss to make your ex jealous?" Zara's laugh was slightly hysterical. "Amina, what the hell?" "I was drunk and angry and—" Amina pressed her hands to her face. "What do I do? What the hell do I do?" "You lay low. You hope he forgets about you. You pray this blows over." Zara paced the small living room. Every major news outlet in New York has picked up the story. Your face is blurry in the photos, thank God. But if anyone figures out who you are— A sharp knock at the door cut her off. Both women froze. "Are you expecting someone?" Zara whispered. Amina shook her head. Another knock. Calm, patient, inevitable. Amina's legs felt like water as she approached the door. Her hand trembled on the deadbolt. Through the peephole, she saw him. Ji-hoon Kang stood in her hallway at 3 a.m, still wearing his black suit, looking like a knife carved from shadows. Behind him, the scarred man from the bar waited silently. "Don't open it," Zara hissed. "Amina, don't—" Amina opened it. Ji-hoon's gaze swept over her, oversized NYU t-shirt, sleep shorts, bare feet, with an expression she couldn't read. Then his eyes moved past her to Zara, who had gone pale as death. "You should leave," Ji-hoon said to Zara. Polite. Absolute. "Amina and I need to talk." "I'm not leaving her alone with you," Zara said, voice shaking but chin lifted. Ji-hoon tilted his head slightly. "That's admirable. Foolish, but admirable." He returned his attention to Amina. "I'm not here to hurt you. If I wanted that, you'd already be hurt." The casual certainty in his voice made Amina's breath catch. "Then why are you here?" she asked. "Because you made a mistake tonight." Ji-hoon stepped forward, and Amina's instinct was to retreat, but she held her ground. He was close enough now that she could smell sandalwood and smoke again, see the intricate tattoos disappearing beneath his collar. "A mistake that's about to have consequences neither of us anticipated." "I didn't know who you were," Amina said. "I swear I had no idea." "I know." Something flickered across his face, almost regret. "But it doesn't matter. The moment you touched me, the moment we kissed, you became visible. And in my world, visibility is dangerous." "So what happens now?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Ji-hoon reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was gentle, possessive. "Now," he said quietly, "I protect what's mine." "I'm not yours," Amina whispered. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Tell that to the 17 different criminal organizations who saw that photo and are currently trying to identify you. Tell it to my rivals who think hurting you might hurt me. Tell it to the FBI agents who will want to question you about our relationship. His hand dropped. You stopped being not mine the second you sat in my lap, Amina Okoye. She jerked back. How do you know my full name? I know everything about you, where you work, where you went to school, your friend Zara's nursing license number, your ex-boyfriend's address. Jehoon's voice remained calm, factual. I know your mother lives in Lagos and calls every Sunday. I know you're 3 months behind on student loans. I know you cry when you watch romantic comedies, and that you haven't been home to Nigeria in 4 years because you can't afford the ticket. Horror crawled up Amina's spine. You investigated me? The moment you left Le Monarch, I had my people find out who you were, and if you posed a threat. He glanced at his watch. Expensive, platinum, probably worth more than her entire apartment. That was 6 hours ago. I know more about you than most people learn in a lifetime. That's insane, Zara breathed. That's absolutely necessary. Jehoon's gaze hardened. Amina walked into my world unprepared. Now I'm cleaning up the mess before it gets her killed. The word killed hung in the air like a blade. So what do you want from me? Amina asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. Jehoon studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, and turned the screen toward her. Amina's own face stared back at her, a professional headshot from her LinkedIn profile. Beneath it, text in what looked like Russian or Korean, and a number, $500,000. That, Jehoon said, is a bounty, posted on the dark web approximately 2 hours ago by the Mikhailov Bratva. They want to know who you are and where to find you. By morning, that number will double. By tomorrow night, every mercenary and 2-bit criminal in New York will be hunting you. Amina's legs gave out. Jehoon caught her before she hit the floor, his arm sliding around her waist with that same inevitable authority. He guided her to the couch, crouching in front of her so they were eye level. I'm going to fix this, he said, and for the first time, his voice held something other than cold control. But you need to trust me, and you need to come with me right now. Come with you where? Amina whispered. Jehoon's hand found hers, thumb pressing against her racing pulse. Somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere I can protect you until I eliminate the threat. And if I say no? His expression softened. Barely, but enough. Then I'll leave. And you'll be dead within 48 hours. Holy plot twist, right? Would you go with him or take your chances alone? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know. 20 minutes later, Amina sat in the back of a black Mercedes sedan with bulletproof windows and leather seats that probably cost more than her annual salary. Zara had refused to leave her side. Now she sat rigid beside Amina, gripping her hand hard enough to bruise, while Jehoon occupied the seat across from them. The scarred man drove in silence, navigating Manhattan's pre-dawn streets with the efficiency of someone who'd made this route 1,000 times. Where are we going? Amina asked. Her voice sounded hollow. One of my properties, penthouse in Tribeca. Jehoon hadn't stopped watching her since they'd left her apartment. Secure, private, no one gets in without my permission. So basically a very expensive prison, Zara muttered. Jehoon's mouth curved slightly. If I wanted a prison, you'd know it. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You're free to leave whenever you want, both of you. But Amina needs protection, and I'm offering it. The alternative is death by Russian mobsters. Yeah, we got that part. Zara's grip on Amina's hand tightened. What I don't get is why you care. You don't know her. She made a mistake. Why not just let her deal with the consequences? Jehoon's expression went cold. Because she made that mistake with me. That makes her my responsibility. Is that all I am? The words escaped before Amina could stop them. A responsibility? Jihoon's gaze locked with hers, and something heated flickered in those obsidian depths. Right now, yes. Tomorrow? He tilted his head slightly. We'll see. The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a glass tower that stretched toward the sky like a blade. Security cameras tracked their progress. Armed guards nodded respectfully as they passed. The elevator required both a keycard and fingerprint scan. Amina's sense of unreality deepened with every floor they climbed. The penthouse doors opened directly into Jihoon's apartment, and apartment felt like an insult to what she was seeing. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan, the city spread out below like scattered diamonds, minimalist furniture in blacks and grays, art that even Amina recognized as expensive, a kitchen that looked barely used, and a bar that definitely wasn't. Guest rooms are down that hall, Jihoon said, shrugging out of his suit jacket. Amina caught glimpses of more tattoos beneath his white shirt, intricate patterns that wrapped around his forearms like armor. Bathrooms stocked. You'll find clothes in the closets. I have people who handle that. You have people who stock guest room closets with women's clothes? Zara asked incredulously. I have people who handle everything. Jihoon draped his jacket over a chair. They'll be your size, Amina. My assistant is thorough. Of course they would be. He'd probably had her measurements researched along with everything else. Amina moved to the windows, drawn by the view. Dawn was breaking over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. From up here, the city looked peaceful, beautiful. Not like a place where she was being hunted by criminals who wanted to use her to hurt the man standing behind her. She felt Jihoon approach, felt the heat of his presence before he spoke. I won't let them hurt you, he said quietly. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. He moved beside her, close enough that their arms almost touched. I've built an empire on keeping promises, Amina. When I say you're protected, you're protected. She turned to face him. This close, she could see the faint scar along his jawline, the exhaustion he hid behind cold control. Why did you kiss me? At the bar, you could have just pretended. You didn't have to make it real. Jihoon was silent for a long moment. Then his hand came up, cupping her jaw exactly the way he had at Le Monarch, and Amina's breath stuttered. It was pretend, he said softly, until it wasn't. What does that mean? Instead of answering, he stepped back, breaking contact. You should rest. We have a lot to discuss when you wake up, and you're running on champagne and adrenaline. I'm not tired. A lie. She was exhausted. Then humor me. Jihoon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something dark crossed his face. I need to make some calls. Find out who posted that bounty and eliminate the threat. Eliminate? Amina's stomach turned. You mean kill them? Jihoon met her gaze without flinching. I mean make sure they never threaten you again. However, that needs to happen. I don't want people dying because of me. Then you should have thought of that before you kissed me in public. The words were harsh, but his tone held no anger. Just truth. This is my world, Amina. It's not pretty. It's not fair. But it's the only way to keep you alive. He turned toward what she assumed was his office, then paused at the doorway. For what it's worth, he said without looking back. I'm sorry you got pulled into this. You deserve better than me. Then he was gone, leaving Amina standing alone in his penthouse fortress, watching dawn break over a city that had suddenly become a hunting ground. Zara found her an hour later, still standing at the windows. Okay, Zara said, handing her a mug of coffee. We need to talk. About how my life just became a crime thriller? About the way that man looks at you. Zara settled onto the couch, tucking her legs beneath her. Amina, I know you're scared. I'm terrified, but I've been watching Jihoon Kang since we got in that car and… And what? And I don't think this is just about responsibility for him. Zara bit her lip. The way he touches you, Like you're made of glass and he's afraid you'll shatter the way he positions himself between you and threats before they even materialize. Girl, I've seen protective, but this is something else. He barely knows me. Since when does attraction require time? Zara set her mug down. Look, I'm not saying trust him. I'm not even saying this is a good situation. But if you're stuck here until the threat's gone, maybe. I don't know. Maybe try to understand him? Figure out who he really is beneath the terrifying crime lord exterior? Amina wanted to argue, wanted to insist that Jehoon was dangerous, untouchable, fundamentally wrong for her in every possible way. But her lips still remembered his kiss, and her skin still craved his touch. And somewhere deep in her chest, something had cracked open the moment he'd said it was pretend until it wasn't. I'm going to shower, she said, setting down her untouched coffee. Try to process the fact that my life is now a drama gone horribly wrong. She made it to the guest room, which was bigger than her entire apartment, before the tears came. Not from fear, not from stress, but from the overwhelming, impossible realization that she was attracted to Jehoon Kang, to a criminal, a killer, a man who could destroy her with a word or protect her with the same. And the worst part? When he'd cupped her face and told her the kiss had become real, she'd wanted him to do it again. Jehoon stood in his office, phone pressed to his ear, watching security footage of Amina breaking down in the guest room. He should feel nothing. Detachment was survival in his world. Emotion was weakness. But seeing her cry made something dark and violent unfurl in his chest. The bounty originated from Mikhailov's second, his head of intelligence was saying. Retaliation for that shipping deal you blocked last month. They think hurting your woman will bring you to the table. She's not my woman, Jehoon said automatically. A pause. Boss, you kissed her in public. You brought her to your private residence. You've mobilized half our organization to protect her. If she's not your woman, what is she? Jehoon closed his eyes. Mine, something whispered. She's mine. Find Mikhailov's second, he said instead. I want a meeting, tonight. And I want the bounty pulled within the hour, or every single one of them dies. Understood. Jehoon ended the call and returned his gaze to the screen. Amina had stopped crying. Now she sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, looking lost and broken and impossibly beautiful. He'd meant what he said at the bar. She should have forgotten him. But she hadn't. And now he was going to protect her, possess her, and try desperately not to destroy her in the process. Amina woke to the sound of shouting. She bolted upright in the unfamiliar bed, heart racing, afternoon sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The penthouse, Jehoon's penthouse right. The shouting came again, muffled but angry, multiple voices overlapping. Korean, she thought, though one voice cut through in English. Jehoon, cold and lethal in a way that made her blood freeze. She found clothes in the closet exactly as he'd promised. Designer labels, perfect fit, tags still attached. She pulled on jeans and a soft cashmere sweater, then crept toward the voices. Jehoon stood in the main living area, surrounded by his men. The scarred one was there, along with 4 others she hadn't seen before. They all looked tense, hands near weapons she pretended not to notice. I don't care about protocol, Jehoon was saying. I want answers, now. Boss, we're telling you, the bounty came from inside. The scarred man, she'd heard someone call him Tai, spread his hands helplessly. Someone in our organization leaked her identity and location to Mikhailov. This wasn't external. We have a traitor. The temperature in the room dropped. Impossible, Jehoon said quietly. Dangerously. No one in my organization would dare. They would if they were paid enough. Tay pulled up something on his tablet. We tracked the original post. It came from an IP address registered to one of our safe houses in Queens. Someone with access. Someone trusted. Jehoon's expression could have carved stone. Amina must have made a sound, a gasp, a sharp breath, because suddenly every eye in the room locked on her. Jihoon's face shifted instantly from cold fury to something softer. "You should be resting," he said. "Hard to rest when people are shouting about traitors who want me dead." She stepped fully into the room, refusing to be dismissed. "What's happening?" Jihoon exchanged glances with Tae, some silent conversation passing between them. Then he sighed, a rare crack in his armor, and gestured for her to sit. "The bounty on you isn't random retaliation," he said. "Someone inside my organization set you up. They leaked your information deliberately, knowing it would force me to protect you and divide my resources." "Why?" Amina sank onto the couch. "Why would someone in your organization want to hurt me?" "To hurt me?" Jihoon's jaw tightened. "I have enemies, Amina. Rivals who want my territory, my power, and now they see you as a weakness they can exploit." "So this is about you." The words came out sharper than she intended. "I'm just collateral damage in your gang war." "Yes." Jihoon didn't sugarcoat it. "But that doesn't change the fact that you're in danger, or that I'm going to eliminate every single person who threatens you." Before Amina could respond, Ty's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went pale. "Boss," he said carefully, "we identified the leak." "Who?" "You need to see this." Tay pulled up security footage on the main screen. This was taken 4 hours ago at the Queen's safe house. The video showed a man entering the building. Average height, blonde hair, expensive suit. Amina's stomach dropped even before his face came into clear view. Andre. Her ex-boyfriend was walking into Jihoon's safe house like he belonged there. "What the hell?" Amina breathed. The footage continued. Andre meeting with someone in shadows, exchanging what looked like a flash drive for an envelope. Money, probably. Then Andre's voice, tinny through the surveillance speakers. "She'll trust you if you act protective. Keep her close, keep her dependent. Once she's isolated, Mikhailov moves in. You get your territory back, I get my revenge, and Amina gets what she deserves for humiliating me." Amina's blood turned to ice. The figure stepped into the light, and she saw his face clearly. One of Jihoon's own men. Someone she'd seen in the background at Le Monarch. "Jesus Christ," Zara whispered from the hallway. She'd been listening, too. Jihoon's expression had gone beyond cold, into something inhuman. "Where is he?" "Both of them are in the wind," Tay said. "They knew we'd find the footage eventually. This was a trap from the start, boss. They wanted you to bring her here, to commit your resources to protecting her, so they could hit your operations while you were distracted." "And Andre?" Amina's voice shook. "He planned this? All of it?" Jihoon turned to her, and for the first time she saw something raw in his eyes. Rage, yes, but also guilt. "I should have seen it, should have investigated him more thoroughly. He approached Mikhailov 2 weeks ago, right after your breakup. Offered information on my movements, my associates, in exchange for money and a way to hurt you." "He hated me that much?" Tears burned her eyes. "For what? For existing?" "For making him feel small." Jihoon crossed to her, crouching so they were eye level. His hands found hers, warm and steady. "Men like him can't handle rejection, can't handle a woman being strong enough to walk away, so he made you pay." "By using me to hurt you?" "Yes." Amina laughed, broken and bitter. "So none of it was real? The bounty, the protection, you bringing me here, it was all part of Andre's revenge plot?" "The bounty is real," Jihoon said sharply. "My traitor made sure of that when he leaked your information. Andre might have started this, but Mikhailov will kill you if given the chance. That part isn't a game." "So what do we do?" Jihoon's thumb traced circles on her palm, and she realized he was trying to comfort her. This man who killed without hesitation, who built empires on fear, he was trying to soothe her heartbreak. "We burn it all down," he said quietly. "Andre, the traitor, anyone who thinks they can use you against me, I'm going to make them regret ever learning your name." "That's not an answer. That's revenge." In my world, they're the same thing. Jihoon stood, pulling her up with him. But first, I need you to understand something. What? He cupped her face in both hands, forcing her to meet his gaze. This started as obligation. You touched me, I protected you. Simple transaction. But somewhere between the bar and bringing you here, it became real. Amina's breath caught. What became real? This. Us. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. I don't do relationships. Don't do vulnerability. My world is built on power and fear, and emotion is a weapon enemies use to destroy you, but you— I'm nothing special, Amina whispered. You're everything special. Jihoon's voice dropped to something raw and honest. You walked into that bar broken-hearted and furious, grabbed me like I wasn't the most dangerous man in the room, and kissed me like it mattered. No one's ever done that. No one's ever made me feel like a person instead of a monster. Jihoon? I can't promise you safety, can't promise this ends well, but I can promise that while you're with me, I will destroy anyone who tries to hurt you. His forehead touched hers. And if you want to leave after this is over, I'll let you go. But right now, you're mine. And I protect what's mine. The words should have terrified her. Instead, they ignited something fierce and desperate in her chest. Show me, Amina heard herself say. Show you what? She rose on her toes, close enough that their lips almost touched. Show me that this is real, not obligation, not protection, real. Jihoon's eyes darkened. If I kiss you now, I won't stop. I won't be able to. Good. He kissed her like the world was ending, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning, like every wall he'd built around himself had just shattered, and he was free-falling with nothing to catch him but her. Amina kissed him back with equal desperation, tangling her fingers in his hair, pulling him closer until there was no space between them. This wasn't performance, wasn't pretend. This was two broken people finding something whole in each other. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jihoon rested his forehead against hers. We're going to war, he said softly. Andrei, Mikhailov, everyone who thinks they can use you. Are you ready? Amina thought about the man who'd betrayed her, who'd weaponized her heartbreak, who'd put a price on her head for revenge. Burn it down, she said. Jihoon smiled. A real smile this time, sharp and dangerous and devastatingly beautiful. With pleasure. Okay, wow. Andrei is even worse than we thought. Jihoon just confessed his feelings, and now they're going to war together. What's your reaction? Drop it in the comments, and if you're completely hooked on this story, hit that subscribe button now, so you don't miss out. The attack came 36 hours later. Amina woke to silence, which was wrong. Jihoon's penthouse always hummed with background noise, guards changing shifts, security systems beeping, the distant sounds of the city below. But now there was nothing, just suffocating quiet. She reached for her phone. Dead. She'd charged it before bed. It should have been full. Her door burst open. Tae stood there, blood streaming from a cut above his eye, gun drawn. Get up. Now. We're compromised. Amina's heart slammed into her throat. Where's Jihoon? No time. Move. Tae grabbed her arm, hauling her into the hallway. Emergency lights cast everything in red, making the penthouse look like it was bleeding. Bodies lay on the floor. Jihoon's men, unconscious or worse. What happened? Amina gasped as Tae pulled her toward the emergency stairwell. EMP blast knocked out our systems. Then they hit us from 3 sides. Professional, coordinated. Mikhailov's best. Tae shoved open the stairwell door, checking both directions. Jihoon's pinned down on the south side, trying to buy us time to evacuate you. Then we go help him. Our orders are to get you out. Tae started down the stairs, keeping Amina behind him. You're the target. If they get you, they control him. They made it 4 floors before the door above them crashed open. Gunfire exploded in the enclosed space, deafening. Tay returned fire, pushing Amina down, shielding her with his body. She felt him jerk, once, twice, heard his sharp intake of breath. "Tay, keep going," he gritted out, blood spreading across his shirt. "Parking garage, black SUV, keys in the visor, go." "I'm not leaving you." "You don't have a choice." Tay shoved her towards the next landing. "Tell the boss." He coughed, red spattering his lips. "Tell him it was an honor." Then he turned back toward the gunfire, and Amina ran. She crashed through the parking garage door, gasping, vision blurring with tears. The black SUV sat exactly where Tay said it would be. Keys in the visor. She'd just grabbed them when arms locked around her from behind. "Hello, Amina." Andre's voice in her ear made her blood run cold. She thrashed, tried to scream, but his hand clamped over her mouth, dragging her backward. Another man appeared, the traitor from the footage, binding her wrists with zip ties. "Easy now," Andre murmured. "We're going to take a little drive, have a conversation about the choices you've made." Amina bit his palm hard. He yelped, and she used the momentum to twist free, stumbling toward the SUV. Almost made it. Would have made it. Then pain exploded across the back of her skull, and the world went dark. She woke in a warehouse. Concrete floors, metal walls, the smell of oil and rust. Her hands were bound to a chair, wrists already aching. Blood trickled down the side of her face from where they'd hit her. Andre sat across from her, perfectly composed, like they were having coffee instead of whatever this was. "You've caused me a lot of trouble," he said conversationally. "Did you know that? All I wanted was for you to hurt a little, feel some of what I felt when you walked away. But you had to go and seduce a Mafia boss." "I didn't seduce anyone," Amina spat. "You set me up, used me as bait." "True," Andre smiled. "But you made it so easy, so desperate for validation after I broke you, so eager to prove you were worth something." He leaned forward. "You weren't, by the way, worth something. You were always just adequate. I stayed because it was convenient." The words should have hurt. 6 months ago, they would have destroyed her. Now they just made her angry. "Jehoon will find me," she said. "Jehoon is dead." The world stopped. "What?" "Mikhailov's men hit the penthouse 20 minutes ago. Overwhelming force. Your precious crime lord fought hard, I'll give him that. But even he couldn't survive that many bullets." Andre showed her his phone. A grainy video of the penthouse in flames, bodies being carried out. "It's over, Amina. Your knight in expensive armor is gone." Number. No, that couldn't be true. She'd just kissed him, just felt his heart beating against hers, just heard him promise to burn the world down for her. "You're lying," she whispered. "Am I?" Andre's smile widened. "Then why hasn't he come for you? It's been 40 minutes. Where's your rescue?" The warehouse door opened. A man entered. Older, gray-haired, expensive suit. His eyes were glacier blue and completely empty of warmth. "Mikhailov," Andre stood respectfully. "She's all yours." The Russian circled Amina like she was merchandise. "So this is the woman who broke Jehoon Kang's legendary control. I expected more." "She's leverage," Andre said. "That's all that matters." "Was leverage." Mikhailov pulled out a gun, sleek, professional, equipped with a silencer. "Kang is dead. The organization will fracture without leadership, and she—" He pressed the barrel to Amina's temple. "She's loose end!" Terror flooded Amina's system, pure, primal, overwhelming. This was how she died. In a warehouse, bound to a chair, killed by her ex-boyfriend's greed and a mobster's pragmatism. She'd never see her mother again. Never go home to Lagos. Never tell Zara she loved her. Never tell Jehoon --. "Wait," Andre's voice cut through her panic. "We had a deal. Money and safe passage in exchange for delivery." "Deal's changed." Mikhailov didn't even look at him. Kang's territory is mine now. I don't need your services anymore. He pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening despite the silencer, but wrong somehow. Wet and shocked instead of mechanical. Amina's eyes flew open. Andre stood frozen, a red flower blooming across his chest. He looked down at the wound, confused, then collapsed. Mikhailov still held his gun, but now it was pointed at where Andre had been standing. "Loose ends," the Russian said coldly. Then he turned back to Amina. "Now, where were we?" Amina couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Watched Andre's blood pooling on concrete and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no horror, just numbness. "Any last words?" Mikhailov asked. She had hundreds, thousands, a lifetime of things unsaid, but only one name escaped her lips. "Jehun." Mikhailov smiled. "He can't save you now, Devichka. No one can." The warehouse exploded. Not metaphorically. Actually exploded. The south wall disintegrated in a storm of concrete and metal, and through the smoke and debris came Jehun Kang, covered in blood, half his shirt torn away, moving like death itself. He wasn't alone. Dozens of men poured in behind him, armed, disciplined, lethal. But Amina only had eyes for Jehun. He was alive. Mikhailov swung his gun toward the entrance, but Jehun was faster. A single shot. Center mass. The Russian dropped without a sound. Then Jehun was running, crossing the warehouse in seconds, dropping to his knees in front of Amina's chair. His hands trembled as he cut her restraints, pulled her against him, buried his face in her hair. "I thought I lost you," he rasped. "Thought I was too late." Amina couldn't speak, could only cling to him, feeling his heart thundering against hers, solid and real and alive. "Never again." Jehun pulled back just enough to cradle her face. Blood streaked his cheek, and his eyes blazed with something beyond fury. "Do you hear me? Never again. You don't leave my sight. You don't breathe without me knowing. You're mine, and I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone take you from me." "You're hurt," Amina whispered, touching the blood on his temple. "I don't care." He kissed her, desperate, possessive, claiming. "I don't care about anything except you." Behind them, his men were efficiently dealing with the remaining threats. Tay stumbled in, alive despite his wounds, looking relieved. But Amina barely noticed. Because Jehun was kissing her like she was his salvation, and she was kissing him back like he was hers, and somewhere in the wreckage and blood and chaos, they'd found something neither of them knew they were looking for. Each other. The safe house was nothing like Jehun's penthouse. It sat 40 miles outside the city, a converted farmhouse surrounded by woods, invisible from the road, protected by layers of security that Amina couldn't see, but knew existed. Jehun had carried her inside himself, refusing to let anyone else touch her. And now she sat in a bathroom while he cleaned the blood from her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about him. "You should have left me," Amina said quietly. Mikhailov was right. "I'm just leverage. A weakness." Jehun's hand stilled on her cheek. "Say that again." "I'm a liability. If you hadn't, what?" His voice was dangerously soft. "Existed? Had a psychotic ex? Walked into that bar?" He set down the bloodied cloth and gripped her shoulders. "None of this is your fault, Amina. Not Andre's betrayal, not Mikhailov's attack, not the fact that I—" He stopped himself. "That you what?" Jehun closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they held something raw and undefended. "That I fell for you. In 3 days, you made me feel more than I've felt in 15 years. That's dangerous. Reckless. Everything I was trained not to allow." His thumb traced her jaw. "But I can't stop. I don't want to stop." Amina's breath caught. "Jehun! I know what I am, what I do. I've killed men for less than looking at me wrong, built an empire on fear, done things that would make you run screaming if you knew the details. His voice cracked. But with you, I'm just me, not the boss, not the monster, just Jihoon. She cupped his face, feeling the roughness of stubble, the scar tissue beneath her palm. Then be just Jihoon. With me. Right now. He kissed her like she was air. Slow and deep and achingly tender, his hands cradling her face like she was made of something precious. No possession this time. No claiming, just connection. Two people finding shelter in each other after the storm. When they broke apart, Jihoon rested his forehead against hers. We can't run forever, he said softly. Mikhailov is dead, but his organization will retaliate. Andrei's gone, but there are others who see you as a way to hurt me. As long as you're connected to me, you're in danger. Then we end it. Amina pulled back to meet his gaze. Not by running, by destroying the threat completely. That means war, real war, bloody and brutal. I know. She lifted her chin. But I'm not the same woman who walked into that bar 3 days ago. That woman would have hidden, would have let you handle everything while she cowered in a safe house. Her voice strengthened. But that woman didn't have you, didn't understand what it meant to have someone willing to burn the world down for her, so I'm asking, how do we end this? Jihoon studied her for a long moment. Then something shifted in his expression. Calculation replacing emotion, the crime lord reasserting itself. Mikhailov's second-in-command is a man named Viktor Sokolov, ambitious, smart, probably already making moves to take over the organization. Jihoon stood, pulling Amina up with him. If we eliminate him before he consolidates power, the Bratva will fracture into infighting. Without leadership, they'll be too busy fighting each other to come after you. So we kill him. I kill him. Jihoon's voice went cold. You stay safe. No. Amina grabbed his arm. I'm not sitting in another room while you risk your life for me. We do this together, or we don't do it at all. Amina, I mean it, Jihoon. She moved in front of him, forcing him to look at her. You said I'm yours. That means you're mine too, and I don't let the people I care about fight alone. Something fierce and possessive flashed across his face. You have no training, no experience with... Then teach me. You have, what? 3 days before Victor makes his move? Use them. Show me how to survive in your world, because like it or not, I'm already in it. Might as well learn to fight back. Jihoon was silent, clearly warring with himself. Finally, he exhaled sharply. If I do this, if I train you, bring you into this, there's no going back. You'll see things you can't unsee. Do things that will change you. I'm already changed. Amina took his hand, lacing their fingers together. The moment you kissed me, I stopped being the woman Andrei broke. You gave me that. Now let me help you finish this. Together. The word together seemed to undo something in him. Jihoon pulled her close, burying his face in her hair, and she felt him trembling, just slightly, barely perceptible, like he'd been holding himself together by force of will, and she'd just given him permission to break. Together, he whispered. God help us both. The next 72 hours were brutal. Jihoon taught her to shoot, not just pull a trigger, but aim, compensate for recoil, reload under pressure. Taught her close combat basics, the soft points on a body where a smaller person could inflict maximum damage. Taught her to read a room, identify exits, spot threats before they materialized. But more than that, he taught her about himself. Late at night, when training gave way to exhaustion, they'd talk. He told her about growing up in Seoul, watching his father build an empire through violence and strategy, about inheriting that empire at 21 when his father was killed by rivals, about the loneliness of command, the weight of decisions that meant life or death for hundreds of people. I never wanted this, he admitted one night, lying beside her in the safe house's sparse bedroom. I wanted to be an architect, design buildings that made people feel something. But when my father died, I had 2 choices, take control or watch everything he built collapse and take our family with it. So you chose survival, Amina said, tracing the tattoos on his chest. She'd learned they told a story, each one marking a significant death or acquisition. I chose duty. There's a difference. Jihoon caught her hand, pressed her palm over his heart. But it cost me everything else. Friends, relationships, the possibility of a normal life. I became the role so completely that I forgot who I was underneath. And now I'm remembering. He turned to face her fully. You make me remember, Amina. Make me want things I thought I'd given up forever. Like what? Peace, normalcy, a future that isn't measured in body counts and territory. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. You. Amina kissed him then, soft and slow, pouring everything she couldn't say into the connection. When they finally broke apart, she whispered against his lips. Then let's end this. Finish Victor, secure your position, and maybe, just maybe, we can find that future together. Jihoon smiled, a real smile, rare and beautiful. Together, he agreed. On the third day, Tay arrived with intelligence. Victor's hosting a meeting tomorrow night, he said, spreading surveillance photos across the table. His wounds were bandaged but healing. He'd refused to sit this out. All the major players in the Bratva consolidating support. If we hit them there, we decapitate the entire organization at once, Jihoon finished. His eyes gleamed. Where? The Volkov Club in Brighton Beach. Exclusive, heavily guarded, but... Tay pulled up blueprints. There's a weakness. The kitchen entrance connects to the underground parking minimal security because they assume no one would be stupid enough to hit them during a full assembly. Assumptions get people killed. Jihoon studied the blueprints with predatory focus. We go in hard, eliminate Victor, send a message that retaliating against my people has consequences. When do we leave? Amina asked. Every head in the room turned toward her. You're not going, Jihoon said automatically. Yes, I am. She moved beside him, pointing at the blueprints. You need someone Victor doesn't know. Someone who can get close without triggering alarms. That's me. Absolutely not. Jihoon! She grabbed his hand. You trained me for this. Now trust me to help end it. The room held its breath. Finally, Jihoon nodded once, sharp and decisive. Then we do this right, he said, and we make sure everyone knows Amina Okoye is untouchable. Mine, and anyone who comes for her dies screaming. Amina should have been terrified. Instead, she felt powerful. The Volkov Club pulsed with Russian techno and expensive cologne. Amina adjusted the silver cocktail dress Jihoon's people had provided. Tight, revealing exactly what a woman trying to catch a mobster's attention would wear. Her earpiece was invisible, Jihoon's voice a constant presence in her head. You don't have to do this, he said for the 100th time. I can still pull you out. I'm already in. Amina scanned the VIP section where Victor held court, surrounded by men in expensive suits with guns hidden beneath their jackets. I can see him. Second floor, corner booth. Remember the plan. Get close, plant the tracker, and get out. Nothing heroic. Says the man who literally exploded through a wall to save me. She heard his low chuckle through the earpiece. That was different. I couldn't lose you. You won't. Amina started toward the stairs, hips swaying with confidence she'd learned from watching Jihoon command rooms. 2 minutes. The club was packed. Oligarchs and criminals, models and politicians, everyone pretending not to notice the armed guards stationed every 10 feet. Amina moved through them like she belonged, channeling every lesson Jihoon had drilled into her. Confidence is armor. Hesitation is death. She reached the VIP section. A guard blocked her path, massive, scarred, his hand resting on the gun at his hip. Private party, he growled in accented English. Amina smiled, channeling every femme fatale she'd ever seen. Victor sent for me. I'm his entertainment for the evening. She let the implication hang. The guard's eyes raked over her, and Amina fought the urge to recoil. In her ear, she heard Jihoon's breathing go shallow, controlled violence barely leashed. "Name," the guard demanded. "Sasha." The cover identity had been carefully constructed. "Call him if you don't believe me. Tell him the girl from the Diamond Lounge is here." The guard spoke into his radio, waited, then stepped aside with a leer that made her skin crawl. Amina walked past him into the lion's den. Viktor Sokolov sat surrounded by a dozen men, all arguing in rapid Russian. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 40, handsome in a cold way, with pale eyes that tracked her approach like a snake watching prey. "Gentlemen," Viktor said in English, silencing the table. "It seems my evening just improved." Amina forced herself to smile. "I was told you might need company." "Was told by whom?" Viktor's gaze never left her face. Too intelligent, too calculating. This was the dangerous part. Amina had maybe 30 seconds before he saw through the lie. She leaned in, letting her hand rest on his shoulder, and whispered, "Someone who thought you might appreciate a gift. After your recent loss." Viktor's expression hardened. "Mikhailov was weak. I am not." "Then prove it." Amina slipped the tracker from her clutch, disguised as a jeweled hair clip, and placed it on the table beside his drink. "Keep that close. You'll want it for what's coming." "And what's coming?" Amina smiled. Jihoon Kang. The temperature at the table plummeted. Viktor moved fast, gun appearing in his hand, pressing against her ribs before she could blink. Guards surrounded them instantly, weapons drawn. "You think I'm stupid?" Viktor snarled. "You think I don't know Kang would send someone? That I wouldn't screen every person who entered this club?" Amina's heart hammered, but Jihoon's voice in her ear kept her steady. "Breathe, I'm coming. 10 seconds. "Actually," Amina said, voice remarkably calm, "I think you're exactly as stupid as you look, because while you've been posturing, you've given us everything we need." "Which is?" "Every major player in the Bratva in one room." Amina's smile turned sharp. "Thank you for that." Viktor's eyes widened a fraction. Understanding, then fear. But he was already too late. The lights died. Emergency systems failed. And through the darkness came Jihoon Kang and an army. The next 2 minutes were chaos incarnate. Gunfire erupted, controlled, precise, Jihoon's men executing a plan they'd rehearsed 100 times. Amina dropped low as Viktor's grip on her loosened, his attention diverted by the assault. She rolled under the table, came up behind him, and did exactly what Jihoon had taught her. She drove her elbow into Viktor's kidney. Hard. He gasped, stumbled, and Amina swept his legs out from under him. His gun clattered away. She grabbed it, held it with shaking hands, pointing at the man who'd wanted her dead. "Don't move," she commanded. Viktor laughed, pained but genuine. "You won't shoot me. You're not a killer." "You're right." Amina's finger stayed on the trigger. "But he is." Jihoon materialized from the darkness like an avenging angel. Blood spattered his face. His eyes burned with cold fury, and the gun in his hand never wavered as he aimed directly at Viktor's head. "Any last words?" Jihoon asked quietly. Viktor spat blood. "You think this ends with me? The Bratva will never stop coming." "The Bratva is done." Jihoon's voice cut like steel. "Every leader in this room is either dead or will be in the next 60 seconds. Your organization dies tonight, and everyone will know why. You touched what was mine." He glanced at Amina, something softening in his expression for just a moment. "She was never leverage," Jihoon said, returning his gaze to Viktor. "She was never a weakness. She's my strength. The reason I'll burn your entire world down and sleep soundly after." Viktor started to respond. Jihoon pulled the trigger. The sound echoed through the suddenly silent club, and then it was over. Amina lowered her gun with shaking hands. Around them, Jehoon's men secured the building with military precision. Every threat neutralized, every enemy eliminated. Jehoon crossed to her in 3 strides, pulling her against him with bruising intensity. "Are you hurt?" His hands ran over her, checking for injuries. "Did he touch you? Did any of them—" "I'm fine." Amina grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "Jehoon, I'm fine. We did it." Something cracked in his expression, relief so profound it looked like pain. He kissed her desperately, tasting like violence and salvation, and Amina kissed him back with everything she had. When they finally broke apart, Toy approached with a tablet. "Boss, it's done. Every major player eliminated. The Bratva's fractured. Without Victor or Mikhailov, they're tearing themselves apart fighting for scraps." He glanced at Amina with something like respect. "The threats neutralized." "Completely?" Amina asked. "Completely," Tay confirmed. "Word's already spreading. Jehoon Kang's woman is untouchable. Anyone who goes after you answers to him personally." Jehoon's arm tightened around her waist. "Not just my woman," he said quietly, his eyes finding hers. "My partner. My equal. The person who walked into hell beside me and made it out whole." Amina felt tears prick her eyes. "We made it out together." "Together?" Jehoon smiled, exhausted, bloodied, but genuinely happy. "Always." Around them, his men began the cleanup. Evidence disappeared. Bodies were handled. Within hours, it would be like the Volkov Club had never hosted anything but a normal Friday night. But for Amina and Jehoon, everything had changed. They'd gone to war and won. Now they just had to figure out how to build a life from the ashes. 3 months later, Amina stood on the balcony of Jehoon's penthouse, their penthouse now, watching the sun rise over Manhattan. The city glittered below, peaceful in the early morning light, and she marveled at how different everything looked when you weren't running for your life. The repairs from Mikhailov's attack had been completed weeks ago. New security systems installed, new guards hired, loyal ones, carefully vetted by Tai, who'd been promoted to head of security after his actions during the warehouse rescue. The Bratva had imploded exactly as predicted. Without Victor or Mikhailov, the organization had fractured into warring factions too busy destroying each other to threaten anyone else. Jehoon had consolidated his territory, strengthened his alliances, and emerged more powerful than ever. But that wasn't what made Amina smile as she sipped her coffee. It was the small things. The way Jehoon's side of the bed was still warm when she woke. The way he'd started keeping Nigerian food stocked in the kitchen after learning it was her comfort food. The way he'd quietly paid off her student loans without telling her. She'd only found out when Zara had accidentally mentioned it during their weekly coffee date. The way he'd stopped seeing himself as a monster and started believing he deserved happiness. Arms wrapped around her waist from behind, and Jehoon's chin rested on her shoulder. "You're up early," he murmured, his voice sleep-rough and warm against her ear. "Couldn't sleep." Amina leaned back into his embrace. "Too much on my mind." "Good thoughts or bad thoughts?" "Good ones, actually." She turned in his arms, studying his face in the golden morning light. 3 months had softened some of the sharp edges. He smiled more now, laughed occasionally, let himself be vulnerable in ways that had terrified him at first. "Tell me," Jehoon said, brushing a strand of hair from her face with characteristic gentleness. "I was thinking about that night at Le Monarch, how I walked in heartbroken and desperate, grabbed the first dangerous man I saw, and accidentally changed my entire life." Amina's hand found his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath her palm. "If someone had told me I'd end up here, with you, in your world, happy, I would have thought they were insane." "Are you?" Jehoon's eyes searched hers. "Happy?" "Deliriously." She rose on her toes, kissing him softly. "Are you?" Instead of answering immediately, Jehoon pulled back and reached into his pocket. When his hand emerged, He held a small velvet box. Amina's breath caught. "I've been carrying this for 3 weeks," Jehoon admitted, and for the first time in months she heard uncertainty in his voice. "Waiting for the perfect moment. But I realized something this morning when I woke up and you weren't beside me." "What's that?" "Every moment with you is perfect." He opened the box, revealing a ring that made her gasp. A stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds, elegant and unique. "I know my world is dangerous. I know I can't promise you normal or safe. But I can promise you this. I will love you with everything I am until my last breath. I will protect you, cherish you, build a life with you that honors both who we were and who we're becoming." Tears streamed down Amina's face. "I'm not good at speeches," Jehoon continued, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "I'm better at actions than words. But you deserve words. You deserve everything. So I'm asking, Amina Okoye, will you marry me?" "Yes." The word came out choked, joyful, immediate. "Yes. 1,000 times, yes." Jehoon slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted like tears and laughter and forever. When they finally broke apart, both of them crying now, he pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you," he whispered. "I never thought I'd say those words and mean them. But God, Amina, I love you so much it terrifies me." "I love you too." She cradled his face. "My dangerous, beautiful, surprisingly soft-hearted crime lord." He laughed, full and genuine, and the sound filled her with warmth. "What do we do now?" Amina asked. "Now?" Jehoon considered. "Now we build something new. I've been thinking about stepping back from some operations, delegating more, spending less time being the ruthless boss, and more time being the man you fell in love with." "I fell in love with both," Amina said firmly. "You don't have to change who you are for me." "I'm not changing for you. I'm evolving because of you. There's a difference." His thumb traced her jaw. "I want a life, Amina. Not just an empire. I want mornings like this. I want to take you to Lagos to meet your mother properly. I want to build something that isn't measured in territory and fear." "What would that look like?" "I don't know yet." Jehoon smiled. "But I have some ideas. Legitimate businesses. Investments in communities that need them. Using the power I've built for something other than survival." He paused. "Your degree is in social work, right? Before you had to drop out because of money?" Amina nodded, surprised he remembered that detail from his original investigation. "What if we started a foundation? Use my resources to fund the work you always wanted to do. Help people who need it. Build something good together." Her heart swelled so large it felt like it might burst. "You'd do that?" "I'd do anything for you." Jehoon kissed her forehead. "You made me believe I could be more than what I was born into. Now let me prove it." The balcony door opened, and Zara stepped out carrying champagne and glasses. "Please tell me she said yes," Zara called, "because I've been hiding in your kitchen for 20 minutes waiting for my cue and I'm cramping." Amina laughed through her tears. "You knew?" "Of course I knew. He asked my permission 3 weeks ago." Zara popped the champagne, pouring 3 glasses. "Also asked Tay to run a background check on what kind of engagement ring you'd like your man is thorough." "Obsessively," Jehoon agreed, without shame. They toasted as the sun climbed higher, painting the city in gold and possibility. Zara regaled them with stories from the hospital, carefully not mentioning the new apartment near the hospital that Jehoon had anonymously arranged for her, another secret Amina had discovered and decided to let him keep. Later, after Zara left, Amina and Jehoon returned to the balcony. "I should call my mother," Amina said, admiring the ring on her finger. "She's going to lose her mind." "I already asked her permission, too," Jehoon admitted. "Last Sunday during her usual call. Your English isn't the only language I speak." Amina's jaw dropped. "You speak Igbo?" "I had 3 weeks and an excellent tutor." He grinned at her expression. "I wanted to do this right." She kissed him then, deep and passionate and full of promise. When they broke apart, she whispered against his lips, "Thank you." For what? For being in that bar, for kissing me back, for protecting me, fighting beside me, and showing me that sometimes the most dangerous choice is the right one. She smiled. For loving me. Always, Jihoon promised, until my last breath and beyond. As the city woke beneath them, Amina Okoye, soon to be Amina Kang, realized something profound. She'd walked into the Monarch Bar broken and desperate, looking for a way to hurt her ex-boyfriend. Instead, she'd found herself. And in finding herself, she'd found love with the last man she should have touched. But sometimes, the best stories start with the worst decisions. Sometimes, touching the wrong person leads you to exactly where you're meant to be. And sometimes, a Korean Mafia boss with obsidian eyes and a dangerous smile is exactly what a heartbroken woman needs to remember she's worth fighting for. And if you loved this story, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. I've got so many more incredible stories coming your way. Drama, romance, redemption, and maybe a few more dangerous men with soft hearts. Thank you for being here. Thank you for reading. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, stay beautiful, stay bold, and remember, sometimes the best love stories start with the worst decisions.